Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first meeting of the North Sydney Local Planning Panel. By way of a quick introduction, I'm Jan Morell and I'm chairing today's meeting. By way of background, I was formerly a commissioner with the Land and Environment Court for 14 years before I retired, and now I serve as a member or chair of local planning panels and also on the state panel. So I'd like the others to introduce themselves and then we will proceed. And I also need to declare I have a conflict of interest in respect of the matter in 58 Cowdroy Avenue, because I was on the panel when that matter was first determined, and any review matters must be considered by another panel. Thank you. Leslie.
Good morning, everybody. Leslie Finn. I'm a solicitor. I've been practicing in planning law for 30+ years. I am still working as a solicitor in that area, and I am on 4 local planning panels, alternative chair on 3 and an expert on this panel. And I have a perceived conflict of interest in item number 4, in that the firm for which I work acts for the owner of that property. So I will be absenting myself from the determination of that item.
Thank you, Lloyd.
Oh yes, Lloyd Graham here. My background is in town planning and economics, and I have had a career in the West Australian state government in the town planning arena, and also sat on the Town Planning Appeal Tribunal in WA. Here in Sydney, I'm on several planning panels and conduct my own private planning consultancy from home. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Virginia Waller. I'm a registered architect in New South Wales. I've been on the panel since the North Sydney Local Planning Panel since 2013. I'm on another local panel, and I have no conflicts of interest today.
Thank you. So that now brings us to the fact that I'd like to advise you that the conflict of interests will be available on the website, as always. This afternoon we have 6 matters on the agenda. 2 of these qualify for what we call a public meeting, in that they have attracted more than 10 submissions. So we will deal with those 2 matters first. Then the public section will be closed, and we'll then hear from applicants for the remainder of the items on the agenda. We have a number of speakers this afternoon, and if I could first of all invite, sorry, here's my little checklist one. Okay, sorry about this, everybody. Can we have someone else that can tell me who the first person is for item number 1? I have that we don't have any applicants or submitters for item number 1. And the item is 2/152 Military Road, Neutral Bay. And it's for the fit out and use as a small bar. And we did receive some 12 or 13 objections to the original development application. But as I see it here today, nobody has registered to speak on this matter. So I presume there is nobody online that wishes to address the panel for this matter. I'll just confirm that. Nobody online? Very well. Yes, we do.
Hi. Oh, no, sorry. I'm Carol Byrne. I'm the proprietor of Hideout Bar, but I'm just observing proceedings unless you need to ask me anything.
Right. Okay, then. Thank you very much for that.
Great. Thank you.
So we have a representative of the applicant online in case the panel has any questions, and they may do. So we don't have any submissions. The business is to be known as the Hideout Bar, and as I said, it's within the business district or the B4 zone. It also has residential apartments above the development. We have all had the opportunity of reading the assessment report and understand the location and context of the site as such. I'll ask the panel members to invite anybody to address the panel. You may wish to address the panel, the applicant's representative. So first of all, any questions of the panel?
Not from me.
No.
Yes, Lloyd Graham here. I just wanted to make the point that potential noise seems to be the principal issue as far as nearby residents are concerned. I just want to feel comfortable that what you're doing there in terms of minimising the decibel rating at both ground floor level and the basement is going to, if you like, ensure that noise escape is minimised.
Do we have the
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, am I? Okay, I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, sure. So this was something that my solicitor spoke with Michael Stevens about prior to this meeting to just get a bit more clarity around how we could sort of look to address it and what the common themes were around some of the submissions from the community. And we have specifically addressed the noise complaints. Certainly agree that that was quite a prevalent concern of a number of the community in the surrounds. So with my initial submission, we had gone to the extent of getting a formal acoustic report from Rodney Stevens. And based on the submissions, we've asked the acoustic surveyor to come back and provide some further recommendations. Council actually requested that the acoustic report rely on a more stringent set of industry benchmarks than what our original report had relied on. So once we applied that more stringent set of benchmarks for noise levels, we did see a need to have to implement some more mitigants to the noise. So this has included making sure that any speakers are not mounted directly to the walls. So the speakers will actually be mounted with sort of soundproofing underneath them to stop that wall vibration. One of the main things that we will now be implementing is actually some perspex walling to sort of block off that whole downstairs area. So confirming that any sort of live music, and when I say live music, it's not heavy metal rock bands, it's like maybe an acoustic guitar player, for example, maybe a singer, a duet. But we will be able to block off that downstairs area. So there'll be a door put at the foot of the stairs and just sort of blocking off where the staircase opens up into the underground area, so to speak. So we have included those mitigants. And we believe that with the prior mitigants that were also in place around not having the live music upstairs, not having any music projecting in the outside area, and also we've gone above and beyond by saying that in our plan of management we will close the doors and the windows to the outside area at 10 p.m. each night. So the acoustic report doesn't actually require this to meet the noise limits, but that's something that I'm certainly prepared to do for the comfort of the community.
Oh, thank you very much for that explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great.
And I'm speaking with Carol Byrne, am I?
Yes, Carol Byrne, yes.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify for the record. So would you have any objection to an additional condition, which would be form part of I9? It requires 60 days commencement acoustic testing, and
sure.
we as a panel can have discussed it and consider that it would be appropriate to also have a second acoustic testing, which would be 6 months after the premises are fully operational. And this would then allow for, if it's not fully operational because of COVID, then for this to be done later on, but in a timely manner. And then any necessary further acoustic attenuation may be required, may not be, but this just provides for then that appropriate testing when it's fully operational.
Yeah, no, look, that's certainly fine. I mean, you may have seen my residential address is also in the area. I live on Grosvenor Street, so I'm certainly conscious of my surrounding neighbours as well. So yeah, happy to do what's needed to make sure that we fit in with the community.
Okay, and there's just one other thing that we discussed earlier, and that was the complaints register. We would like to see the standard condition in there, which requires that a complaints register be maintained with the date and name of the complainant and any action taken, and that this is available for inspection by council officers at any time.
Sure. Yep. No, that's no problem at all. And yep, under my liquor licensing, I also need to maintain registers for that, for their purposes as well. So no problem.
And just the other point was a telephone number has to be displayed on the outside of the building to show the manager's mobile in the event that anyone may have a complaint.
Yep, not a problem. Happy with all those three requirements.
Yeah, they're rather standard, but we will impose those as well.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Very well. The panel, I don't believe we have any other speakers, so we shall close this matter for now, and our decision will be on the internet by the end of the week or Monday at the latest with our formal determination. We have a private session following the public meeting. So thank you very much for addressing the panel.
Oh, thank you so much for your consideration and time. It's been quite the experience. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Bye.
Right, the next matter that we have on the agenda this afternoon is 11 Bennett Street, Cremorne. And in this regard, I have a number of people who wish to address the panel. We have Tim Alexander. I can see you there, thank you. You may wish to unmute yourself, that would be lovely. We have Warren Long, also if you could unmute yourself, and David Leo. David, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, fine, thank you. Right, yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so I don't have any people who made a submission. Once again, this matter has come to the panel as a public meeting matter because it had more than 10 objections, but we don't have anyone registered to speak. Nonetheless, the panel has considered all the written submissions in respect of every application that we have before us today. So that will be taken into consideration in our discussion. Could I invite you first of all to address the panel? Mr. Alexander, you're the architect. Do you wish to address the panel?
The architect, Madam Chair. Warren, the planner, Warren Long, would like to go first, if that's okay with you.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Madam Chair and panel members. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
I thought it was appropriate for me to go first because my submission relates really to the permissibility question that's raised in the report and the method of determination that is recommended by the consultant planner. Whilst we are happy with the merit assessment of the application and the ultimate foreshadowed approval, I did provide you with a submission dated the 1st of February 2021, in which I explained what I felt were the extenuating circumstances or particular circumstances relating to this particular matter, in that there is already a current development consent, DA 237 of 18, for the demolition of the structures on the site and the consolidation and re-subdivision of the land to create the two equal-sized lots that would then give the opportunity for development in some form in the future. The suggestion that I've made in my submission is that, in my opinion, it's within the council's power and as delegated to the panel to issue a deferred commencement consent in relation to this application, if you're of a mind to support it, based on the fact that to activate the consent for the demolition and to ultimately register the subdivision of the two lots that's foreshadowed in the 2018 consent, at a point in time there will be no buildings on this particular site. That could then follow and allow for the activation or the the deferred commencement consent to then operate once those works have been done. And I framed a condition that I thought obviously may need some fine tuning, but the essence of the condition that I framed on page 2 of my submission provides for the consent to not operate until such time as the council is satisfied that the demolition has occurred, and eventually the subdivision and registration of the two lots as well.
Right. As I understand it, we do not, in terms of a deferred commencement, we don't have the power to do that. It would have to be something akin to what has been recommended. That is, the panel can delegate if it's minded that a consent could be granted. Apart from that prohibition, then it could delegate to the manager of development services for it to then, or for him to then provide the necessary determination consent. And the panel could in fact express its view, but it could not approve the application without that authority.
Madam Chair, I accept the panel's consideration in that regard, and I understand completely that if that's the way that the panel sees this application to move forward, then we would be happy to accept that recommendation.
Okay, then, thank you. Now, could I invite Mr. Alexander to address the panel?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Because none of the submitters have registered to actually talk, I'm not trying to say so much more, although I would like to address some of the merits of the application. I just wanted to very quickly talk about the background of this. We had a consultant team of 12 people called consultants working on it. We went through, as Warren just said, a preliminary DA for subdivision and demolition. We then put a DA in April last year, and that DA, the council did a long assessment of it. I went around with the council officer to view it from various neighbouring properties. We put up height poles, we did route investigations, we did a whole lot of other things. We got it to a point where, and we got an easement over number 4 for disposal of stormwater downhill by gravity, number 4 Bertha Road, the property at the rear. So we did all that work, and we got to a point with council, with the first DA, the original DA, where they said they generally supported the DA application. They had a couple of conditions, which we then, a couple of provisos, which we then addressed and got it to a shape where it was ready to go. They then told us we'd run out of time. We'd run over about 3 months. They said, we can't give you any more time. So we withdrew it and then resubmitted what is now the current DA. The current DA is based basically on that generally supported scheme. And we know it's supported by the consultant planner working for council as part of the submission, the report going with this DA. In the end, a summary of what we did, between the original one and the current one before you, the parking, the submitters were concerned about the noise of cars going down a long ramp between the buildings and parking on the back of it, headlights, noise, cars moving, revving and whatever. We moved all those to the front in an excavation, accessed by 2 car lifts. So they're now underground, out of sight, out of mind, away from everything. The bulk and scale, we pulled it back 2 metres from the rear boundary. We got rid of a largish deck, which could be used for outdoor entertaining, pulled that right back, so just a window cleaning narrow deck. We lowered it by 1.2 metres by doubling the roof, flat roof at the rear, and we so that reduced the bulk and scale considerably. We're now under, if you take it from where the slope would have been pre-development, we're under 8.5 metres above that development. This site is very unusual in that in the 1950s they built a house and a tennis court and they benched right into the hill. So we're about 4 metres below the street at the front for a flat tennis court. So in terms of the 8.5 going from existing ground levels, it's a bit unfair to take it off the existing levels. Its impact on the surrounds and the community and the everything, if there was no excavation there, would have been far less, and we would be complying with a virgin site height. The privacy issues, as I said, we've made the decks smaller, the rear balconies, the landscaping along the rear boundary to 4 Bertha Road. There's existing screening landscaping, We submitted a montage, which unfortunately wasn't given to the panel, with a view from the rear yard of 4 Bertha, which shows that you virtually can't see our buildings. There's very little to be seen behind the existing planting. We intend to keep that there and enhance it with further planting, which will replace some of the not so good trees that are there, which are rather distressed. Similarly, from number 19 next door, from their tennis court, because we're down at least a storey below ground level, all they'll see above their existing hedge is our top floor bedroom screen windows. They're screened internally. So there's very little to be seen from their side as well. Lowering of the roofs and the flat roof at the rear meant the neighbours' views are virtually unaffected, of particularly the Opera House, city skyline and the eastern suburb skyline. There's a little bit of loss of filtered view through trees. And the site coverage is now complying with landscape, unbuilt upon area and the actual site coverage itself. So we hope that we endorse the council's and the consultant's very thorough 125-page report, merits-based assessment, and we trust you will adopt their recommendation of approving it. I guess there's nothing much more to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander. You no doubt heard what I said about the power of the panel, and but there are opportunities if the panel was so minded to delegate functions to a member or senior member of staff. So I don't really probably need to go over that again, but
Madam Chair, if I can, is 60 days doesn't really suit my clients. They've owned this house for 35 years. They're a very small time development, if you like. It's currently occupied. It's used by one of their sons in part. 60 days, they're not going to demolish now. They're not ready to demolish. I know your hands may be tied by the legislation. We have a different view on that, but I guess we can't talk to you about it right now. But
we will certainly look at what power we have. Yes.
Yeah. Whereas we vary on that, so we've sought some opinion. We would like to seek further opinion, but we think it could be approved without, as Warren said, deferred commencement with a 24-month limit rather than 60 days. 60 days doesn't work for my client.
Okay then, thank you very much. I'll just check to make sure the other panel members don't have any questions. No questions?
I was going to ask a question on view impacts, but I think you've covered that satisfactorily, so I won't go on with it. Thank you.
Well, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Alexander, Mr. and Mr. Leo. And we will be making our determination later on today, and our decision will be on the internet Friday at the latest Monday. Thank you very much for attending.
Well, thank you,
Madam Chair, for panel members.
And at this point, I would like to formally close the public meeting part of this local planning panel meeting. And now we shall enter into the session whereby we just allow applicants to address the panel if they so wish. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending the public meeting. And I'll just close this portion and then we'll go into another stream. Thank you. Josh, do I?
Telling me who's the staff members and who are. Oh, that's, yeah, just send everybody into the waiting room. Bring them in as well. Apologies, it's not responding to me.
Very well. So now we have people in the waiting room. We've closed the public meeting. There's nobody left online.
There is just one member of the public that is allowing me to put the waiting room. Just a question, was there a separate meeting for the private session or?
My understanding was that they get put into the waiting room and then get let in, and then there's the closed decision discussions afterwards. And that's the point where we have a separate meeting for it.
So we're still recording on this session.
We're still recording, yes, but it's not public.
Yeah,
Yes.
the recording will still go up as a record
Yes.
on the website.
It's not live, but it still is.
Being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah. So very well, we'll go to the third item on the agenda, and this is in respect of 5 Milnall Street, McMahon's Point, and the applicant is Louise Cox, and I wish to say that the panel has had the benefit of the council officer's report. If we have the applicant there, is the applicant wishing to come into this?
Yep, I've got it here.
Right, very well. I have both Philip North and Louise Cox in the waiting room, so we'll invite them into the meeting to address the panel.
Sir Barty.
Sorry.
Sir Barty to the and you can unmute Louise.
Right. So we have Louise Cox, we have the Heritage Planner listening, and we have Philip North. So you're unmuted, Ms. Cox and Mr. North.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
Yes, thank you. You may address the panel if you wish.
Sorry.
Yes. But look, we note that the council's officer's recommendation is for approval, and we thank the council officer for the extremely thorough report which they've prepared and the extremely constructive manner in which they have dealt with us over the course of this application.
Thanks.
And of course, we're supportive of the recommendation. If we would just turn our mind now to some of the conditions which we think could do with a small amount of refinement.
Yes, can I just stop you there for one moment, Mr. North? You have seen the additional heritage recommendations for conditions, I understand.
That's what I'm referring to.
That's what you wish to address us on? Yes, okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that you had them. Yes?
Yes, thank you. So if we can turn to condition C1, which is, I think, the second page of the conditions.
Yes.
The first dot point condition, we have no problem with, so that's fine.
It's the setback one, that's fine,
yes.
actually.
The second dot point condition, reading that the proposed skylights in the roof above the stairs shall be in line with the roof plane and shall not extend above the roof plane. I think in another section of the conditions, a figure of 100 millimetres is mentioned. And I'm just wary of the way this is worded, because if we get a very thorough certifier, they might insist that the roof window even 50 mils.
This is 20Y where it's different.
Yep.
Sorry, Phil.
Yes.
So I would suggest that we put the figure shall extend no more than 100 millimetres or extend a maximum.
Could I ask you to speak up a little bit, please, Mr. North? Speak up a little bit, thank you.
So if we could clarify that by saying that that the proposed skylights in the roof above the stairs shall be in line with the roof plane and shall not extend more than 100 millimetres above the roof plane. So if we just add that figure, no more than 100 millimetres, I think that would be safer.
If I may assist, Chair,
Yes.
I think Mr. North is referring to condition C9,
It's
which
also in C1.
and so C9 says 100 millimetres, and in practical terms, any skylight that you can buy commercially will project above the roof by some amount. 100 millimetres seems to be a fair thing.
Yes, thank you. It just makes it consistent and clarifies it. Thank you, Mr. North. Yes.
Thank you.
The final matter, the third condition in the third dot point, which reads, a schedule of conservation works to be carried out for the maintenance, repair and restoration of the dwelling is required prior to CC. Now, I don't know if the panel has had the benefit of visiting the property or visiting it internally, but in fact it was completely overhauled and renovated some years ago, and is actually in extremely good condition. And really, there's no conservation works required to the building. So this condition would seem to me to be superfluous.
Would it be that it's a matter of then that being documented, Mr. North?
That's all right. Well, we could do that, but there won't be a lot to it.
No, well, I understand that, but at least it provides a base and it's asking for just documentation as such.
Okay, that's fine. All right, well, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, we'll do a dilapidation report on it, but there's hardly anything that needs, only we go through the door into the laundry, that's all.
Yep.
Well, it might be a schedule of maintenance and...
Yes, it is, because it's a heritage item, yes.
Okay, then.
It's consistent with a condition for heritage items, yes. Thank you.
Happy to accept that. Well, then that's really all we have to say.
Right, okay then, great, thank you. Any questions from the panel?
No questions from me.
Louise Cox, can I invite you if you wish to say anything to the panel?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I will also say I think the report is really thorough of the 50 pages, and I commend the officers who did it, because it's rather tedious having to do these things, but they've done it really well. They've been very fair in the assessment of the complaints about height and views and whatever from the neighbours, and I'm congratulate them on managing to come to all the conclusions that they came to.
Thank you, and thank you both for addressing the panel. We will be making a determination on this matter later this afternoon, and our decision will be on the website Friday, if not Monday. So thank you very much for addressing us and making yourself available. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, okay, so the next matter that we have on the agenda is item number 4. And item number 4, we'll ask Ms. Finn to vacate the room, and because she has a perceived, perhaps potential conflict of interest. And so the remainder of the panel members will be making a decision on this matter. Thank you. For this item, we have, it's 275 Alfred Street, North Sydney, and it's for the advertising signs on the building. And we have Jeff Mead to address the panel, and Tony Legg, the architect for the applicant. So could I invite you both to address the panel, and also wanted to recognise that we do have the assessment officer, Hugh Shoulders, has provided us with an addendum report, and can I confirm that the applicant has a copy of that?
We don't have...
They're not online?
We don't have Jeff Mead, we don't have...
All right.
Legg. So I'm concerned they probably don't have the meeting.
Okay. Just for the recording, we are going to endeavour to phone Mr. Mead and Mr. Legg and see if they wish to address the panel. If not, we will be making a determination later this afternoon. So just allow us 5 minutes while we do that for the recording. Okay.
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Anna Perlman. Always got to run with Anna Perlman.
Yeah.
Met a husband. No, I've met a husband.
It always appears distorted when you actually don't have the people here.
I know.
They don't quite know when it's finished up, or so sometimes you feel like you're belabouring it, but
And sometimes you get echo. You know, I often find that when I'm talking in Zoom. Like
Yeah, there is.
talking and then someone else will start.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes you feel as if you're not talking to anybody at all, unless they make comment.
Still superior to the regional planning panel, where we've had up to 100+ people online, all with an open line the whole way through, which is excruciating to listen to.
You get interference, like
Dogs barking, arguments, horns tooting, children. Coming through the back of the eye. Like me. Absolutely.
And there's no video with that one either.
No.
It's just an audio, which I think is.
oh, with the northern,
Yeah.
I actually do the state ones with video,
Yeah. Well, that's much better.
and
Yeah.
okay. So what we'll do with this one, we'll come back to it at the end just to see if they're available. Otherwise, as I said, we will determine this one later. And Leslie Finn will be invited back into the room.
was that the regional planning panel?
Yeah, they get the far larger groups, projects. The projects are just larger. So
Like orange and stuff like. What was original?
anything of regional significance.
Over 30 million,
30 million
and
more.
sort of public
Domain.
lands, and well, we do those too, but on to the next item on the agenda, which is 5, and it's 20 Wairera Street, Lavender Bay, alterations and additions to a heritage listing attached dwelling, including a new rear boundary wall and landscaping works. We have the officer's report and recommendation. I understand we have 2 people registered to speak for this matter. James Martin, the applicant. Could I invite you into the meeting?
So,
Yep. Yes, and take yourself off mute as well. Thank you. You look like you already have, James. You might just
Hello, how do you do?
do?
Good to see you. Sorry, I'm just adjusting my camera.
Thank you. That's fine. Yes, we don't want to sort of don't want to end up with a crick neck. And then we have Catherine Lau as well. Is she here?
okay, she is.
Yes, she is here.
What's better?
Is that better for you? Thank you.
Yes.
And we have Catherine now.
Yes, thank you. Catherine is being let in right now.
Wonderful.
We have the report and the recommendation, and we invite you to address the panel.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, panel members. It's thanks for your time, and it's happy to be here with you. I'm here with Katarina, my partner. We both live together at 20 Wairera, so we're residents of the area. The reason we're here is to address items raised in condition C1 of the Council Officers Report dated 28 01/2021, and the addendum to the LPP 05 Council Officers Report received by ourselves today.
Thank you. I was
So
going
that-
to confirm that you have been in receipt of that, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
We also have a copy of those additional conditions, heritage conditions that the officer has recommended there. So by all means, address us on C1 and the additional conditions. Thank you.
That's right. So yes, so this is these are the conditions of consent, specifically regarding a discussion and a challenge of item 7 raised in the addendum, and as a critical issue, and to discuss item 5 of the officer report. So there was an addendum made that was issued to us today. If you'd had the chance to review that,
we have.
Excellent. So we'll refer also to the architectural plans and heritage supporting letter that we submitted as part on the 19th of the 1st, 2021, in response to council heritage items on the 15th of the 1st, as what we're aiming to achieve. We note item 7 of the addendum states the following, so bear with me, that the demolition of the walls and widening of the existing door opening between the barbecue entertaining area and the dining room is not supported. This will necessitate replanning of the kitchen, specifically the design and location of the island bench. And we note that this actually differs to what was issued in the officer report, which in item 7 was the widening of the existing door opening from the kitchen to the dining room should retain the same height as existing with architraves to match. So effectively what we feel that this is, we achieved this in in our drawings of the 19th of the 1st. However, this addendum item, we feel was unfairly received with such late notice, requesting something that's different from the official report. Up until today, nothing has suggested that to the contrary, that the conditions of this consent would be in support, wouldn't be in support of the architectural plans submitted on the 19th by ourselves. We also bring in some points that we received today from our from our heritage consultant, received on the 3rd of February. We don't know if you have a copy of that as well, but it just reiterates their support for the current proposal on the 19th, saying that there will be, and this is in response to the council heritage questions regarding there will be brick nibs of 450 millimetres wide at each end of the opening. There will be a remnant spandrel above the opening. The retention of the nibs and spandrel would facilitate a clear reading of the original room, its ceiling and layout, and that the quantum of fabric obtained from the proposed demolition could be used as paving in the courtyard and thus retaining the original fabric of the site. I'll move on to item 5, noting an argument that was also made in the heritage letter from the 19th of the 1st. We can go through that if you wish. However, we'll just proceed with saying that we add that, that the council comments say there's no precedent. However, we do note while there is no precedent for having a terrace in its location, we do note that the entire Wawera strip, all the back facades of each terrace are quite vastly different in their language and their character. And 22, which is our neighbour, actually has an enclosed story in the position that we would be asking for a terrace. And that the existing roof above the family needs to be replaced in any case due to leaking. And what we want is just a further improvement of amenity as residents by adding the terraces supported by the Heritage 21 document. So that concludes item 5. And I guess as a more personal note, as residents of the area, and this is particularly for item 5, but more particularly for item 7, speaking as residents of Lavender Bay and lovers of the beauty and the heritage of the area, what we're asking for is a DA that passionately represents the way we want to live and enjoy for those many years to come. Our aim, as reiterated by the Heritage 21 document from the 19th, is to facilitate our lifestyle expectations in conjunction with the conservation works and seek a balance between the two. We would love to be able to love and look after the house that we're actually in, and noting that, I think it's quite important to say that certainly from the proposal, we do proceed with heritage conservation, but it is striking a balance against the public interest and what we would like as residents within the private right of our property. And with those points in passionately supported by certainly myself and Kat as residents, we're hoping that we believe the plan submitted on the 19th of the 1st can achieve this, and certainly the heritage items that we raised from Heritage 21 are in support of this as well, and ask.
It is. Oh, golly.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent.
Right, thank you. So the last thing I wrote down was we were talking about a balance of public interest and livability.
Actually, that could have been. It was pretty much at the end of. It was at the end of our points. That was effectively very close to what we had. So maybe just I'll just pick up where we certainly were before. We were just noting that again, the aim of the project is to facilitate our lifestyle expectations in conjunction with the conservation works. And therefore, we would argue that a balance must be made between the two. And considering that our project does entail conservation work, our private right to develop the land must be balanced with the public interest. And in our view, and certainly in the view of Heritage 21, this balance has been achieved in the current plans from Cotty Parker, dated 19th of the 1st, 2021. And therefore, we'd ask if item 5 and 7 be omitted from the conditions of consent.
Items 5 and 7?
Correct.
That's what you asked for, yes, yes.
So this would be item 5 of the officer report dated 28th of the 1st, 2021, and the item 7 of the addendum report dated or received by us on the 3rd of the 2nd, 2021.
The addendum report, I understand. I just need to clarify. So you're saying you want 5, in your opinion, you'd like 5 deleted?
As a condition of consent, yes. The condition asks that the rooftop terrace be deleted.
Yes,
we would
I
ask.
understand. Yep.
Yeah, we would ask that the rooftop terrace be able to be retained.
That rooftop terrace is it adjoins
the breezeway.
The breezeway, yes, yes, yep. As we understand it, there's a pattern in terms of a row of terraces with the breezeways, and you're at the end of the row. What I understand.
We are. Yes, that's right. We are at we're one from the end. We have 8. We're bounded by 18 and 22.
Yeah.
22 actually has, in the place where we would like our terrace, actually has a fully enclosed structure. So our argument, in addition to the Heritage 21 items that were brought up in support of this terrace, we'd also like to say that the condition along that back end of all those blocks does differ quite significantly in terms of solid and void forms. And we are maintaining an argument that terrace along the top achieves minimal impact upon that extent, and that the roof needs to be replaced in any case. And we're trying to add some further amenity to improve our quality of life within the house itself.
Right, okay then, thank you. Now I'll just see if the panel members have any questions. Is there anything further that Katerina may wish to add?
Nothing specifically. I think that in this matter, I'm definitely of far less expertise than James has. I have a lot far less expertise than James does, because he's the architect. I'm a doctor, so
Okay, well, you're very much needed too. I'll just check with the panel to see if they've got any questions. Any questions?
Not for me.
No? Virginia, any questions?
I was just going to clarify that it's actually the design amendment C1.5 that James has requested that they don't want deleted. Or they want deleted.
The roof terrace.
Yes.
That's correct. We are happy to support the other items that have been nominated in C1 of the design amendments. Just item 5 and the new item 7 as part of the addendum. I believe that the item 7 that was in the original C1 was just required further detailing that was put into the new item 7 that is in the addendum. However, we believe that it's asking something different to what the original officer report was asking, and wasn't, there was no prior knowledge, certainly from our point of view, that council had any opinion contrary to the support of the plans from the 19th of the 1st with our, which were the response to the original heritage concerns, like adding partial nibs and so forth. So, and I think just in terms of what we want out of the house itself, as we've already illustrated, we're very passionate about maintaining certainly the lifestyle goals that we're aiming for in this proposal.
Right, thank you very much. Well, we'll be making a determination later on today, and our decision will be on the website Friday or the latest Monday. So thank you both for attending, and
thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, panel members. Very much appreciated of your time.
Thank you. Great. Right, Fiona, let's move on to the next item, which is item number 6, in which I am conflicted. So I will depart. I am conflicted on this item because I determined the original development application, and this is a request for a section 8.2 review. So I will depart and then come back and hand the chairing over to Lloyd Graham. Thank you.
Boston. See.
Them both, do we?
Yes.
That's everyone in.
Yeah, we have Mr. Boston, we have Etherington's. Mr. Donovan can go into the waiting room.
Good afternoon. It's Lloyd Graham speaking. I'm just chairing this particular matter because Jan Murrell believes she has a conflict of interest, and so she won't be participating in these proceedings. Can you both hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes, I can.
Oh, very good. Just with respect to this matter, I just wanted to make the point that the consultant's report is a very comprehensive report, and your clause 4.6 is also a very comprehensive document. But it would probably assist the panel greatly if, when you respond, you try to outline the amendments that you've made from the decision that was taken on the 5th of August, I think it was, 2020, and what you have subsequently submitted, so that we can see and hear about the differences that you've made in order to try and accommodate what was indicated in the refusal back in August. Is that clear?
Very.
Understood? And who would like to speak first?
Anthony, I might let you discuss the architectural changes.
Surely. Okay, good afternoon, panel. I'm sitting here with Paul Etherington as the applicant. So the history of this particular application from the original one, which was refused in August last year, after the, first of all, I'm sure you all appreciate the unique and difficult nature of the site. The overwhelming threshold issue for any building on this site will always be the height. It's very hard to actually build a home and comply 100% to the maximum building height. It became clear from the original application that the extent of the non-compliance of the maximum building height was a major issue. And so having taken that on board, we did have dialogue with council after that to discuss the best way forward with an amended scheme for a section 8.2 review. So in a collaborative sense, we introduced increased landscaping, which is effectively the courtyard between the garage and the house, and to also retain or to have mature tree. And we cut back the extent of the actual building, how much it sort of projected in towards the water. But the main change or amendment was reducing the size of the roof. If you look at drawing S8.209, which is just a side elevation, it clearly shows in a green line where the roof was originally submitted, then where it was amended to, and where it is now. And the hatched area is the additional area that's picked up in terms of view from the neighbours. So the amendments generally are the roof, which is reconfigured, the pool, which is modified, the introduction of the courtyard with the landscaping between the garage and the house, and then there were internal modifications to stairs, which is a consequence of the amendments we'd made. But the overwhelming change was the roof and the landscaping, which is the courtyard. And I guess the point I make is, without just as a point of process, really, is that we engaged in constructive dialogue with council, and we believe that the changes were sufficient to enable us to get an approval. But you now have an extensive report in front of you, but the process was that it went to an external consultant, and there was no communication. So we're not in a position to describe or make amendments or anything like that. So just take that as a comment about the process. So we have endeavoured to do all the right things with council with an amended scheme, and unfortunately for us, the document is still doesn't think we've done enough. We think we have, of course, and there are many arguments about solar access and the view and so on and so forth. Every building faces north, every building faces the water. Every building in the whole precinct does not comply with the building height. So, we're surrounded by big buildings, and unfortunately for this particular site, the neighbouring building is at the very back of its site, and because of the topography of the land and the trapezoidal shape of the sites, we have to be forward of that no matter what. And so therefore that's been the number one argument from the start, like the angled view to Long Bay from the neighbour. So as I say, we've gone to very great lengths, or the applicants have, to ameliorate their concerns, and we sincerely thought we'd done enough, but unfortunately the report doesn't reflect that.
When you talk about the neighbour, you're talking about number 56, Cowdroy.
Correct, yes.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Anyway, Greg, maybe, I mean, there's a reference to 4.6. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, look, all I would add to that is that in terms of the building height breach, the primary issue seemed to be one in terms of view sharing and ensuring that a view sharing outcome was achieved, because it's quite clear from an inspection of the site, particularly from the water, the council has historically applied the building height standard with a degree of flexibility on these steeper sites. And I think in some respects, the 4.6 variation request, certain elements have been cherry picked out of it. But I think when you read the entire document in its entirety, I believe that we have actually established a circumstance where strict compliance is unreasonable and unnecessary. And in terms of view sharing, when you have a look at page 31 of the assessment report, which goes towards this issue of view sharing, whilst they don't agree with my categorisation of the views, on the third paragraph there's an agreement that the assessment is considered to be minor with possibly moderate impacts, having regards to the montage on that same page. And that montage on that page from 56 Cowdroy clearly shows that the critical view elements, being obviously the views directly out of the site, but also the oblique views down the bay, including the land-water interface, will be retained. And those views will be retained obviously from living areas which are themselves above the height standard and looking over the roof of the development proposed. So we believe that we have achieved a view sharing outcome, notwithstanding the non-compliance. I think the location of number 56 Cowdroy deep into the site compared to the majority of development along that foreshore, which is set further forward towards that foreshore building line, certainly makes the protection of those side views even more difficult, and I believe even more unrealistic in terms of an expectation. And again, the environmental planning grounds, I think only one of my comments has been pulled out into the assessment report in terms of a need to achieve reasonable development potential consistent with that of adjoining properties. But quite clearly, the 4.6 goes towards not only the topography of the site, which sets the level for the garaging, but also the sewer main, which runs through the site, which establishes the lower floor plate level and prevents the building being pushed down further into the site. To remove a full floor plate of floor space from this site or this development would render it at least a story, if not 2 stories of habitable floor below that of the adjoining properties, and going towards the objectives of the Act in terms of both good design and orderly and economic development. We believe that we have established sufficient environmental planning grounds. So I believe that you have got a competent 4.6 variation request in front of you, and that it's certainly open for the panel to form an alternate view to that expressed in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Boston. I wouldn't mind the question of site coverage being addressed and also setbacks. If either of you could address that, I'd be grateful.
Do you want me to just have a chat about that, Anthony, or did you want to?
No.
Yeah, look, I'll lead off. Look, in terms of setbacks, there was originally a concern expressed in regards to the setback to the water. The proposed development does comply with the foreshore building line, notwithstanding the building footprint has been reduced through pulling the building back further from the foreshore to reach a greater extent of policy compliance in terms of site coverage. There's obviously pressure in terms of building footprint also generated by the need to provide car parking up the top of the site. Council certainly encouraged the creation of a courtyard between the car parking and the dwelling house itself. And to that extent, I don't believe that the footprint, as expressed through site coverage on a site such as this, is unreasonable under the circumstances. The changes to the building footprint, the introduction of that courtyard, does provide an opportunity for the provision of a canopy tree. There was some criticism in the report in terms of the time that canopy tree would take to establish, and of course it would be open for the panel to condition up quite an advanced species to be located in that particular location. But do you have anything to add to that, Anthony?
Oh, I just look at the site coverage diagrams and landscaping. So the landscaping is at 40.8%, the minimum is 40%, but that's really within a bull's roar of compliance. It's particularly minimal. The site coverage, originally we had a car deck rather than a garage, because that's the element that takes us over the site coverage. And once again, in dialogue with council, it was seen as reasonable, considering all the other changes to the roof and the courtyard and the landscaping, to go over the site coverage with regard to the garage. So, well, say it was even a suggestion, but the setbacks, like this, you've got to remember this site is very constrained with the building foreshore line. You have the sewer at the bottom. You need to get cars off the street, so there's a minimum depth of a garage, and you're left with quite a small amount of site where you can actually build a building. And of course, every millimetre you go out, you're going a millimetre up as well in terms of the maximum building height, because the site drops so steeply. So, having regard for all the setbacks and the constraints, the non-compliance with the site coverage was considered reasonable in our discussions.
All right, thank you very much to both of you. Look, I have Leslie Finn and Virginia Waller here with me, and I'll just ask them whether they have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, Virginia?
No, just in the report, it brings up that, you have in the amendments, you have seen to introduce landscaping, but that was one tree in the courtyard. I think 9 are being removed. So it's still on the low side.
Well, look, we can revisit the landscaping. A lot of these trees are intertwined within each other. It's a very, very heavily wooded site and very steep. You have large trees that are so close to each other that they sort of intertwined a little bit. But yes, it was suggested to put in to have a mature native species tree. But where the garage goes is also where we have trees at the moment, and to actually make it comply to AS 2890, which nothing does along that laneway, the actual site boundaries are not where you think they are, they're actually into the laneway. And so to strictly comply with the Australian standards, you physically can't get a garage in, although of course people do. And the only way to make it work was to pull the garage right up to abutting the site with number 56, which gave sufficient room for a car to get in and get out, and that's with a turntable. So, and that meant sacrificing that particular tree that's in that footprint. If you put the garage toward the other end, which is twofold, what's it called? Folding, twofold. Then we have to penetrate further, deeper into the site, because the depth of the garage is the depth of the garage, and the angle of the site is such that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, you put it where you can
So to actually make it physically work and comply with Australian standards, that's where it had to go. But as Greg said, that we'd be happy to take on board a suggestion from council in terms of species and maturity and things like that. But it sounds bad taking out 9 trees, but it's I'm sure that we can look at part of that. But like at some point, some of the trees would have to go just to make it viable for individual trees to grow to the right shape and maturity.
Well, and I think there, Anthony, what I would also say is the property as it currently stands is one of the most underdeveloped properties along there. And I think because that's a historical circumstance, there happen to be these established trees between the existing cottage down near the water and up on the road verge. So it's unfortunate that because of the geometry of Cowdroy Avenue, there wasn't an ability to relocate the garage somewhere else to be able to retain the trees. So again, it's a particular site circumstance which we believe warrants approval of the application as designed.
Okay, thank you. Virginia, did you have any more questions?
No, that's all. Thanks a lot.
All right, look, thank you very much. I very much appreciate your presence here this afternoon. We will discuss this matter later on today, and our decision will be on the website at the end of this week or possibly Monday. So thank you very much for participating, and we'll finish at that point. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right.
The other guys were in back.
Yes, yeah, we had both of them, but one of them did drop out. You'll have to. Leslie?
We're going to look at the
We're going to have a look
signs on the
at
roof.
item 4 now.
Oh, are we? Right.
Yes, they came back.
Right. Thank you. So we've got them on the line. The item 4, was it?
They're in the waiting room at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming, Jen.
Leslie?
Item 4. Very well. We now have the applicant and representatives online. So I can invite Jeff Mead and the town planner and Tony Legg, the architect for the applicant, to join us and unmute yourselves. Thank you. Jeff, unmute yourself. Thank you. Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And do we have Tony Legg? No, just
myself, Madam Chair.
Okay, fine, thank you. We have the panel here. We've got Virginia Waller, and we have Lloyd Graham and Jan Morrell, and the 4th person has excused herself because the company is a client of their law firm, so that's fine. Okay, so you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any detailed submissions to make. We've read the assessment report prepared by staff. We concur with the assessment and the recommendations. You will have seen we made a late submission just in relation to a couple of the conditions. Firstly, I should check that you've received that. It's a 2-page document. Yeah, so essentially there's one condition where there's just a conflict, and I think it's just an error about the hours of use of the sign. So we are saying that condition I3 should be retained. It is correct, but condition I1 should be deleted because it's inconsistent and in error in terms of the way it expresses the hours. So that was one condition. I also refer to the Addendum Report, which I only had the benefit of reading a short time ago. The condition that's put forward in that is much more acceptable than the suggestion of a 3-year consent, though we question and well, in fact, make the submission that council is, or the panel is, without power to impose a condition on the time frame for the consent, given that the application relates to the structure itself, but not the use. You will have seen there's very lengthy history in relation to this sign, but there's a 2016 consent that relates to the use of the sign. The current application is for the signage structure itself to change from the current Bayer signage to the 5X sign. Now that's a complexity that arises from the detailed application history on the site. Of course, a 10-year consent is better than a 3-year consent, but we say that there should be no imposition because the imposition is within that 2016 consent already. They're the only submissions we seek to make in terms of responding to the objections, and I haven't had the benefit of hearing any submissions made to the panel today, but the submissions made in relation to notification of the application, we've also made a response to that as it relates to lighting and light spill in the submission we sent yesterday, and we just reiterate the conclusions of our lighting experts report, which essentially concludes that the application will comply with all Australian standards related to lighting, and in addition to the limitations on the hours of operation of the signage, the conclusion is that the impact will be no greater than the existing signage on the site. In fact, there will be an improvement because of the improvements to lighting technology. That's all we wish to say. Other than those minor changes that we request to the conditions of consent, we concur with the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Just one question. We seem to have a feedback here.
I've just muted Jeff. Sorry, Jeff. We'll bring you back again.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. It's bad enough having me say it once, let alone it goes back to us all. Just the 2016 consent, that was for a period, an unlimited period?
That consent was for a 15-year consent. So, I mean, in effect, the timeframes we're talking about almost align in terms of the period. We are just, in terms of completeness, we just say that the condition should not be imposed because it's not a use that we're seeking consent for. That's why I say I'm sure that our client does not cavil with the 10 years to the extent that it almost marries up with the 2016 consent.
Right. It is not unusual with advertising structures to allow often less than 10 years, but at least now we've got a position where it's 10 years or 15 that we can now consider. So that's fine. Thank you. Then we did have the addendum report, and you agree with those proposed changes to the conditions that were in the original report. So we understand that too. Do you want to unmute, Jeff? Yep.
Yes, that's correct.
Great, thanks. All right. Did the rest of the panel have any other questions?
No.
I just wanted to confirm that these so-called eyebrows over the lettering really reduces light spillage. Is that the idea?
Yes, obviously I'm not a lighting expert, but yes, that is absolutely the intent of them, and our lighting expert does make a point on that, suggesting that yes, there is a beneficial effect of those.
Right. They made the point that there was the possibility of illumination of the west and northwest, and that this would have an effect in reducing that light spillage. So I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Very well. Well, thank you very much, Jeff. We will be making a decision later this afternoon, and it will be on the website, Council's website, by Friday, Monday at the latest. Thank you for making yourself available.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now officially declare the meeting closed at 3:30. So the recording